Papers there. Oh, join Milananda mine. Hello. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Ma'am, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
How are you all?
We are fine, ma'am.
Under exam stress or exams done?
Exams are done, ma'am.
Huh?
Exams were only for one day. It was only yesterday.
You have completed?
Yes.
How was it?
It was good.
Good.
The only part, the number of words were not sufficient for us to write the activities.
Sorry?
When they have asked to, submit activities, the number of words they have given was not enough. Like
Okay, no, it's minimum. That's the minimum now.
Minimum, is it?
Yeah. It doesn't say maximum, right? Word limit is minimum. So you can go on beyond that if you like. There's no issue.
I wanted to go beyond, but yet I was trying to stick to the number of words they have stated in it.
No, you don't have to. You should have asked me. Why didn't you call me? If you had a problem, you could have put it in the group and I would have answered you immediately because, word limit is minimum. Minimum word limit is given. You can always exceed, no problem. Now, my problem is normally we have more than this in the class. And why a less number today? Did you have lectures in the morning?
No, ma'am, we didn't have.
You didn't have. What was it that you were supposed to have today?
No, it was not scheduled for the morning anything. Nothing was scheduled. Only
Right.
the list scheduled today.
Okay, I'm just a bit worried because we have a little less number. Shall we? Can you all put a message in the groups and see whether we'll have a little bit more joining?
Madam. Madam.
Yes, what is it?
No, we also did the same way. Like limited up to 100.
It's all
So
right.
that means.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We'll see.
Okay, madam. Yeah.
We have improved to 36, right? Why do you think the others are not joining today? Just because it's after the Day after the exams, are you all planning to take a break?
Maybe, ma'am.
Maybe. Right. Okay, right. Tell me, what were we doing last time? What did you all do?
Skills and strategies.
Huh?
Skills and strategies.
Strategies. What were the strategies we were talking about?
Cognitive, metacognitive, affective, and social. I can't remember the last one.
What is the other one? Anybody who can remember? Anyone?
The social word was there. I have social linguistic. It was a competence. I can't remember the word.
I can't hear you properly, but what is it?
The social something was in it, but I can't remember the social.
Go to the PowerPoint I have shared and see what it was. Now, are you all here? I can see that 36 have joined. Can you put a thumbs up for me to see whether you all are here? Let me see how many of you are here. Thumbs up in your profile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Child. Okay. Right. Now, can you see the activeness of the class? This can happen to you in your classes, right? Students seem to be here, but they are not here anymore. Now, say in your physical classes, yes, they'll be here, but then they are not there. So how many of you are really present? Very little. Right. Okay, now I was going to ask you a couple of questions. We were talking about certain strategies, right? Fine. Do you think the strategies are useful for us when it comes to the classroom work?
Yes.
Yes, why?
Because now metacognitive, as you said, is the best way, and it has this pre, while, post, and it helps the student to learn it accordingly.
Right.
So that last one, social linguistic, was not very much like, it is about the emotions, I guess, that we need to help each other boost our feelings.
Right. Okay. Now I asked you to do some activities in breakout rooms last week. Who can remember what we did? I put you all into breakout rooms and I asked you to do some work. Can you remember?
We are asked to make a listening activity, madam.
Yeah, you were asked to make a listening activity. And some of the groups, they even worked overtime, I can remember. They didn't want to leave the group and they were just working, right? Okay. I have a very general question to ask you. Do you like to work in the breakout rooms or don't you like to work in the breakout rooms?
We like to work in groups, madam. Is it?
Sometimes the contribution in some groups are not enough, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
that is
madam.
the possibility everywhere.
Yeah, most of the first in the first breakout room activity, like there was very less contribution was there, but the second activity, almost everyone contributed. You know, it differs, and when you get into a group that nobody contributes,
Hmm.
it's one man show, and you get fed up. I mean,
Hmm.
it would be rather good to do it alone.
Yeah, then it's good to do alone. So what you have to do is you have to do it alone then. You don't have to think about the group and
But when they, when it is to submit, they of course give out the names.
so you don't have to put their names, or you have to highlight the names and send me. Then I know who has done it.
Then you feel
It
it
takes
like
time.
you can't do it.
No, I mean, what I'm trying to ask you is when you work in the breakout room, do you think you share knowledge and it's going to be better than listening to a lecture for 3 hours? What do you prefer? If you want me to talk to you for 3 hours at a stretch, I can do that. No issue. But
Supposed to be very, interactive, and we should learn from each other because each of us have different ideas, background, and experience. So it really is important. But when it comes to that contribution level and speaking only, the counts.
yeah,
Because
those are individual differences, right? That's the problem.
Because we are all adults and I mean teachers, and we should talk, when it comes to a group activity. It doesn't happen. I mean, we are not there to,
I wonder why sometimes these people don't talk.
Exactly. Even I do wonder.
Yes, you will have to talk. We will have to talk because we'll have to see what's happening. We'll have to go for a contribution. We'll have to kind of share ideas, learn from each other. Okay. If you have done your reading module, we have to learn from known to unknown, right? You put known and the unknown together, then only we go for a guest, right? And then only we go for productions. Now, activities are not for us to pass time. Activities are to share knowledge. Is that understood? Activities we do are to share knowledge, because now say if I do the lecture for 3 hours at a stretch and only 10 of you, say 20 of you will be listening to me. Others would be there in the Zoom physically, I will see the visual part of it, but I don't know whether they are kind of, psychologically and mentally here. Cognitively, I don't know whether they are participating. Right? That is why I give you activity to see. Now see, the best part of doing activities is the people who are absent, then they tend to send me work done as well. But I got to know that you don't like activities. Is that true? You don't like to work, but you would like to simply listen and see whatever it is. When it comes to teaching and learning, the more you do, the better professional you become of it. Okay. Just because you listen does not mean that we are going to be professionals one day, unless and as long as you don't do it. Therefore, you have to put yourself into practice. Without knowing whether you have understood or not, my reading or saying or explaining, I don't think it's going to serve the purpose. But I can do it that way, no problem. I can cover a huge area, vast area. More than what I'm covering now, I can cover. But I simply don't know whether it would be taken. And if you say they're going to day and then going to grab the knowledge and then going to write the answers, you will not be able to, because practically almost all these questions that you'll be getting is based on the practical component of your teaching, not theory. Therefore, unless you have participated, put yourself into action, you will not be able to answer. That one I will have to tell you. Okay, right. So today we are going to talk about conversational routines. I hope you can see this. What do you mean by conversational routines?
Any class down. Right.
So today, please mute your mics. If you are going for personal discussions, mute your mics because others can hear you. I'm going to discuss about conversational routines, styles of speaking, and functions of speaking today. Okay. So when it comes to conversational routines, it says a marked feature of conversational discourse is the use of mixed expressions or routines that often have specific functions in conversation and give conversational discourse the quality of naturalness. Now here the important words that you will be underlining or you'll be marking is conversational discourse and specific functions and either the expressions or routines. Okay, when we talk, we just have to understand we have quite a number of conversational discourses that we use. And without the conversational discourses or what you call the expressions or the routines, your speech is going to be really boring. It's not going to be interesting at all. And it's not going to be natural. It will be very boring to listen to, right? Therefore, when we speak, we have to make sure that we use conversational routines in our speech. There are routines to help people establish themselves in certain positions. What are they? They can be like categorized as routines of greetings. You can say hey, or hello, or hi, and how are you? Routines of gratitude. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. You can even have routines of apology. I'm sorry. Are you all right? Routines of farewell. It has been nice talking to you. See you soon. Oh, offers of hospitality. How do you say that? Offers of hospitality. What do you mean by offers of hospitality? Now see, greetings,
offer
gratitude,
something.
apology, farewell. Hospitality.
You offer
Welcoming
something to drink
people.
or, you know, maybe a hospitality you have in the, should have hospitality when a guest comes.
Yeah, that is it. So, I mean, give me an example.
Like take a
Would you
seat.
like a cup of tea?
Yeah.
Okay, example.
Let's have some drinks.
Shall we have a drink?
Yeah.
Shall we have a drink? Okay. Right. So that's hospitality. And there are also routines of beginnings and endings of conversations. I have got to go now. Have a great weekend. What is that? I've got to go now. Have a great weekend. Is it a beginning or an ending?
Ending.
Ending. It's an ending. Leading into topics. Can you give me a beginning? An example. How would you begin a conversation?
How are you doing?
Hi,
What's up?
how are you doing?
What's up? What's going on? What's up?
Okay. Hi, what's up? You can say what's up, right? Leading into topics and for moving away from one topic to another. Leading into topics. Let me explain you something. Moving away from one topic to another.
By the way.
Very good. By the way. Right. There are routines for breaking up conversations. for leaving a party, and for dissolving a gathering. It's difficult to imagine how life could be lived without some routines. Can you give me one example for this? There are routines for breaking up conversations.
I must leave. Please excuse me. I need to leave now.
Sorry?
Excuse me,
Okay.
I need to take a leave now. Like,
Yeah, may I take leave, right? May I take leave? Hmm? Breaking up,
catch you later.
good, catch you later.
See you soon.
See you soon, very good. Right. And say to just dissolve a gathering. See you soon is good. Well, this can be used plurally or singularly, right? So you could be plural or singular. Can you think of a plural one for dissolving a gathering? Hmm?
Like, let's meet up some other time.
Hmm. Let's meet up. When? Let's meet up later.
Some other time or
Some
later.
other time, later, some other day, okay, next week, whatever. So, like, you know, these are just phrases, or we call them routines, or the discourses that we use at different situations in life. They are used for certain functions of communication in life. So we always find it difficult to imagine how we would be living our life, right? Without these routines, because when we talk, we always talk, or we always communicate through discourses practically, right? I don't know how many of you do it, but you know, practically, and if you want to talk as naturally as possible, or actually if you are a natural speaker, you would be using discourse a lot in your life. It is also surprising how much of everyday conversation consists of repetitive expressions, like, you know, these type of expressions. There are a lot in our day-to-day life functions. Thank you. Sorry, would you mind? And there are a lot of other variants. More common expressions found in conversational routines, such as apologizing, thanking, requesting, and offering. A lot of expressions are found in these things. Okay, can you give me some examples? Like, okay, tell me an occasion where we would be using this, and tell me some other variant of discourses we might be using when we are in day-to-day conversation.
Like, can you give me a hand, like request for help, like in day-to-day life, like to open the door or to carry a box to the vehicle?
Sorry can be used in so many different situations, right? So did you feel sorry? I'm sorry, you might say, if somebody has, you know, lost something, lost a relative, close person, you say, I'm sorry, a function.
And when you don't hear or say, we say sorry.
Yeah, when you don't hear properly, you say sorry, right? Then when you have done a mistake, you say sorry, right? So, I mean, now see, just single word can have so many functions that it plays in day-to-day speaking. What we have to make sure is like, not that we don't know these things, we know them. But we have to see whether our students are using these functions, these discourse, right? Or whether they are very rigid in using the language. Sometimes the students are like that. Right here, you have some examples. Would you mind? I don't believe a word of it. I don't get the point. You look great today. But as I was saying, nearly time. Got everything? Are we making a move then? I see what you mean. Let me think about it. Just looking, thanks. I'll be with you in a minute. It doesn't matter, I'm sorry. Make your pardon. Right. Would you like to tell me instances where we would be using them? I want to hear now. One person at a time can talk, take one discourse and give me an instance where we would be using this.
Would you mind like to seek some, like, would you mind passing me the curry, or would you mind putting the dishes away?
Mhm.
Like,
So where can we use it?
in seeking help or getting support?
Yeah. In seeking help, getting help, getting a favor done, right? Right. Next one. One by one, say it, please.
When you're gossiping.
Huh?
When you're gossiping, I don't.
Okay. I don't believe a word of it, right? When someone comes to you and say, well, the principal was scolding back and forth, right? Scolding you back and forth. So you're going to get a good punishment today.
Talk about people. Now we'll say the next door lady, she did. Oh, I don't believe a word of it.
Say I won't believe a word of it because I know the principal is in favor of me. He won't say a word against me. All right. No, I mean, I was just joking. You can think. It's one situation, right? I don't get the point.
For clarification.
For clarification. You look great today.
Appreciation.
Appreciation. As I was saying,
We are adding something to the conversation.
Huh?
When we add, I mean, like, you get a pause, and as I was, you connect the conversation, the top part and the what we are going to continue.
Nearly time. Got everything?
Like cross-checking when you are leaving. In the confirmation, like.
Nearly time. Got everything. Confirmation in what way?
They are about to leave. Ending of a lecture or a class.
Right. Yeah. Ending of a lecture, you can use it. When you're about to leave, you can say it.
They are preparing for something like presentation or.
All right, you're preparing a presentation, right? Sorry. Sorry, next one.
Is it to farewell? Discontinuing the.
I'll be making a move then. Say kind of a goodbye, isn't it? Give me a
We
minute.
say goodbye.
Yeah, excuse me, just give me a Sorry, I got a cough. Yeah, I'll be making a move then when you're leaving, when you're ending something, okay? When you're about to say goodbye to somebody. Hmm? Right, yes. Next one. I see what you mean.
To show that you are, you understand what the speaker says.
Agreeing, right? Hmm. Agreement, in agreement. Let me think about it.
Like you're promising that you will.
Anybody make a suggestion?
Is it a promise that let me know if somebody suggests you something and let me think about it, that you will get back to? At the moment, you cannot give them a word.
That is consenting, right? Consenting for a positive reply, maybe. Hmm. Just looking, thanks.
Rejecting help. Hello.
Yeah, we were checking on something. But why do we say thanks?
No, it is a polite way.
It's a polite way to say it, and also checking on somebody must be inquiring from us. Why or what or how, right? I'll be with you in a minute.
To inform the person that you are going to take a
Yeah,
moment.
expressing to join you, right? Mhm. It doesn't matter.
Just like leave it, let it go.
Hmm?
Like let it go. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
okay.
let go of it. It doesn't matter. I don't mind, right? I'm sorry. Apology. Make your pardon. Or beg your pardon, you say. You're asking for apology again, right? Okay. Native speakers have a repertoire of thousands of routines like these. In designing speaking activities or instructional materials for second language or foreign language teaching, it is also necessary to recognize the very different functions speaking performs in daily communication and the different purposes for which our students need speaking skills. Okay, let's go from the bottom. Our students need speaking skills for different purposes. What are they? What are the purposes for which our
Function for
students need?
requesting and is it like the
Sorry?
functions requesting,
Uh-huh.
then apologizing as we spoke right now? They need the speaker to inquire about something to get the directions.
Mhm.
Speaking.
Yeah, shall we go for some main functions like getting and giving directions, right?
Clarification.
Clarifications. Getting information, giving information, okay?
Inquiry.
Inquiry. Basic functions, the main functions. So for such things, our students need the speaking skill. Okay. Now, if you go from there onwards, it says it is also necessary to recognize the very different functions speaking performs in daily communication. Now we see, we have recognized the basic functions the students needs, and also there are different functions other than that. There can be a lot of other functions. Why don't you quickly look for the functions in the internet and tell me? If you use your phones, you can quickly go and see what are the functions of speaking.
Talk interaction, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Talk interaction.
Okay,
Talk as translation.
right.
Trading.
Talk as performance.
Mm-hmm.
Express feelings.
Express feelings.
Argue what, madam? It's not that in the.
It is. It is a function, right? Argumentative speech is a function again.
Entertain others.
Entertain others, right? Okay. Now see, you have got some of them at least, right? So if we know that there are so many functions other than just the basic functions that the students need in speaking skill when it comes to mastering speaking skill. So we have to make sure when we are teaching the students the speaking skill, basically, though we are focusing on the basic needs of theirs, right? In the speech, we will also have to make them aware that there are other instances where they will have to use the language and how they should be equipped themselves with in order to say maintain their standards in any other situation that they are going to face. Now, native speakers have a total different way of using the discourse. Now, before you go into the second language, like, the first language users of English, that is English as mother tongue, you go to your own mother tongue and see what are the discourse that we use in our mother tongue when we speak. Don't we use discourse when we speak?
We use, ma'am.
We use, what are they?
We usually ask like, they are male. Is that something like that? We just to make communication, we just and we know they are going out like kade, they are communicate karannama, we start questioning the obvious, isn't it? Isn't that a discourse?
Right. So when we are talking in our own mother tongue, in order to maintain the actual flow of it and to maintain how it should go, we use certain language discourses, right? Say in order to maybe ask questions, give answers, maintain a good rapport between each other. I mean, in Sinhala, you use like Ella, and when you say Ella, nobody knows the meaning of Ella. Right? If you say Ella Kiri, anybody who knows the direct meaning will think that they'll be referring to dairy milk. But the actual meaning there is different. You call them slang, but you use them as discourse as well. Okay. They're kind of, the posing connectives where you maintain to speak through one. Therefore, we just have to see that anybody who uses the mother tongue as their English has total different ways of speaking. Now, see, if you have noticed, the foreigners, when they speak, they have a lot of sounds that they make, ahs and ums and ums and all that. And we sometimes wonder why, isn't this fellow quite good in his English? Because why does he have to make all these sounds? But because they are their discourses, right? They just, those sounds, the poses, the gestures, the expressions that they make, all these contribute to the continuation of communication and to make it more meaningful. And yeah, even in our own mother tongues, we used to do that. I think we also do that. Okay. Right. Let's look at this. What is the teacher's role in teaching routines? What is the teacher's role in teaching routines? for teaching these courses? Can you tell me a few?
We should repeatedly use it in the class, isn't it? And make space for them to use it, like a routine.
Hmm? Can you all kind of tell me ways of doing it? When you say using it in the class, you can't do it alone, but I will give you just 5 minutes to think. Close your eyes and think, how are we going to use this courses, or what you call the routine, in our classrooms? In the role of a teacher, how are we going to use that? Just think about it for 2 minutes.
Is it like this, ma'am? Like if we take that, would you mind? Now, teacher can use it during her lesson. Would you mind bringing your book? And then we should give them a situation like, now, how would you ask your friend to share the notes with you? Asking them to repeat it like, would you mind sharing the notes with me?
Mhm.
Is that the way to me?
Do we have to tell them how would you? Do we have to ask them to do it?
First, we need to, as a teacher, we need to give them the examples as they are language
Right,
learners.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's like controlled practice.
Yeah, so you can always say the same, the routines that you want to use in the class, right? And then eventually they will start learning it from you and they will copy you. But you know, this takes a long time. This cannot happen overnight, right? It takes a
Yeah.
long time. Therefore, we just need to think of some other possible ways. So what we need to do is, we have to think how we are going to include this, because the more discourse you use, the more routines you use in your day-to-day speaking, more natural you become when it comes to handling the skill. And nobody will think that you are not confident in using the language. Okay, when you have more routines when you speak, it shows that you're highly confident in using the language, because you can't use them unless you know where to use them correctly. Here are the speaking styles, right? In the context of ESL teaching, there are at least 5 types of speaking that takes place in the classroom. One is imitative, intensive, responsive, interactive, and extensive. What is imitative? Can one of you read this?
At this level, the student is simply trying to.
Can you read a bit louder, dear?
At this level, the student is simply trying to repeat what was said to them in a way that is understandable and with some adherence to pronunciation as defined by the teacher. It doesn't matter if the student comprehends what they are saying or carrying on a conversation. The goal is only to reproduce what was said to them. One common example of this is repeat after me. Experience in the classroom.
Repeat after me, experience in the classroom. You say and you ask them to repeat. The word itself says it is imitative. The students are going to imitate you. Is that understood? Is it clear enough? Read it on your own once more, everybody. 1 minute. What do you mean by imitative? Do you have to add anything more? Share an experience of yours, but be quick without wasting time.
Can we do something like this, ma'am? Using the mother tongue, like how do you say that? I'm hungry. Is that possible?
No, you have to say, well, I did not eat, right? And you can show if it's a very small class, if the vocabulary is too difficult for them. And you can say, I am hungry. You might show mime yawning and then say, I am hungry. And ask them to do the same, repeat. Or anything that you know, that you tell and that you make them repeat. Even when you read it and ask them to repeat, they imitate you, right? Let it be like, let the students imitate the teacher. That is just one way. When you imitate, one thing that they can imitate is the pronunciation. Because the teacher is defining how you have to say, and teacher is either explain or mimed what she's trying to say. And when they imitate, a couple of times, they will get the meaning, and they will also get the use of it, and they will start using it. It also says it doesn't matter if the student comprehends what they are saying or carrying on a conversation. The goal is only to reproduce what was said to them. It's kind of drilling, right? They repeat. They imitate you. Next one, intensive. Who would read this?
Intensive speaking involves producing a
Producing.
limited amount of language in a highly controlled context. An example of this would be to read aloud passage or give a direct response to simple question. Competency at this level is shown though achieving certain grammatical and lexical mastery. This depends on teachers' expectations.
Intensive is, it involves producing a limited amount of language in a highly controlled context, right? Say you ask somebody to read a passage aloud. You don't ask them to keep on reading. You just ask them to read for some time. Or you can give them a question and you're eliciting a direct response as an answer for the question. These are called intensive reading. Because with this, we would be achieving the grammatical and lexical mastery. But it definitely, again, depends on the teacher's expectations, because we have to decide, the teacher will have to decide what our focus is. Whether our focus is to make them master in grammatically and lexically, or it's going to be something different. So, as the entire essence of the class, it's the teacher always, right? It's the teacher, it's the teacher, it's the teacher. It all depends on how and why and what the teacher does. But the only thing, we just need to know how we can do it and what are there for us to do when we start doing speaking lessons. What do you mean by responsive? Well, another one who did not read, please read. Just wanted to see whether you are live in the classroom.
Responsive is slightly more complex than intensive, but the difference is blurry, to say the least. At this level, the dialogue includes a simple question with a follow-up question or two. Conversations take place by this point, but are simple in content.
What do you understand by this? Now the word itself says what? Responsive. What do you mean by responsive?
Giving a response, madam.
Yeah, you should be able to give a response, right? You should be able to say something. You have to You have to give a free whatever something back will have to be given once when you get something. So this can come in the form of a dialogue. Somebody asks you a question and then you give an answer. Well, maybe the other person can ask you another question and should be able to give an answer. So it all depends on your competency level, whether you'll be able to manage a couple of questions at the same time. Have you experienced this in the class? When you ask one question, students might answer. When you ask second question, well, say about 3/4 of the class will answer. You ask the third question, half of them will answer. Because now if you keep on asking questions, students find it sometimes difficult to be responsive. Because number one could be comprehension. Number two could be their lack of vocabulary and comprehension. And number three could be they have, the lack of understanding how to give a response. I mean, when we ask questions, and when you keep on asking questions for a couple of minutes, you will get the feeling where the students stand in their speech. Okay. Well, so far, if you have not given any thought to this, from now onwards, you can do it. Just observe. I mean, we have to teach, but while teaching, we have to observe a lot as well. Okay. Now you have something called interactive. What does the word interactive click in you?
Interaction between peers, teacher and student.
Some sort of a communication, isn't it? Interaction. Right? Some sort of an interaction is taking place, interactive communication. Yes. Who would bear the cat now? Who would read now?
May I, madam?
Yeah.
The unique feature of interactive speaking is that it is usually more interpersonal than transactional. By interpersonal, it is meant speaking for maintaining relationship. Transactional speaking is for sharing information as is common at the responsive level. The challenge of interpersonal speaking is the context or pragmatic. The speaker has to keep in mind the use of slang and humor, ellipses, etc. When attempting to communicate, this is much more complex than saying yes or no or giving directions to the bathroom in a second language.
Okay. Now let's go to the first difficult word that we had.
This is humor, no, madam?
Huh?
This is HUMOR, humor.
Humor. It's humor.
Yeah.
What do you mean by pragmatic? What is the meaning of pragmatics?
Contextual meaning.
Elaborate. If you take pragmatics, basically it's more practical than theoretical. Okay. Anyone who
if we take the word study, I went to the study to study. Then the word study appear in two places, have two different meanings according to the context.
Yeah, like, you know, how situationally it looks like. Okay. Simply speaking, situationally, how it's going to work like, how practical it is, how realistic it is, context. That is called pragmatics. The speaker has to keep in mind the use of slang, humor, and ellipsis. Now give me the meanings of slang, humor, and ellipsis.
Slang is elakiri.
Hmm?
Slang is, I mean, example in the mother tongue is elakiri.
Yeah, Hari, right. Okay.
Humor is like you crack a joke. You can practically crack a joke in the class and explain the word humor.
Okay.
Ellipsis, of course, I don't know the meaning of the word.
Yeah, just look for it. Quickly look for it. Slang is the quick responses that we give, which are not actually the in the language, but you know, the created versions that we use, right? Humor is how you kind of, you know, kind of sarcasm and entertainment both in one. Ellipsis is what?
Like something like or something that we want to
The dictionary says a situation in which words are left out of sentence, but the
Sorry?
sentence can words that are left out of sentences and still
Yes.
be understood.
Still it's understood, right? Okay, still they are understood. You haven't even uttered them, but then it is understood. This is what you meant. Is that clear? So when attempting to communicate, these things we use. This is much more complex than saying yes or no or giving directions to the bathroom in a second language. Is that understood? Like, you know, it's difficult to understand this. But still, if you know the language properly, you know how to understand, right? So when it comes to interactive, it's more interpersonal than transaction. That is, you know, you use the language more or less in order to maintain your relationships with each other. Transactional speaking, you will be using to share information at certain common levels. Say the teachers speak, transactional, right? Whereas you speak about the students, transactional. The friends get together and then talk about a family issue, interpersonal. You get that point? So in our staff rooms, we have all sort of the examples for these. Okay, the next one, extensive. What do you mean by extensive? Extensive communication is some sort of a monologue. What is a monologue?
One direction. You talk, I mean, like only you talk.
Yeah, one-way communication, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Examples include speech, storytelling, etc. This involves a great deal of preparation and is not typically improvisational communication. It is one thing to survive having a conversation with someone in a second language. You can rely on each other's body language to make up for communication challenges. However, with extensive communication, either the student can speak in a comprehensible way without relying on feedback, or they cannot. In my personal experience, the typical ESL student cannot do this in a convincing manner. Who is an ESL student?
Learners of English as a second language.
Yes,
English
as the second language, learners are ESL students, right? So when we use English as a second language, well, our responses are not immediate, most of us. If you have, I mean, unless you have mastered your language, the second language you are using, if you have mastered it, if you know it, if it's just like your second skin, then you'll be able to do it. But otherwise, yes, you take a couple of minutes all the time, or a couple of seconds at least all the time, in order to prepare what you're going to say, in order to get prepared for what you're going to say. So your responses are not spontaneously done. They're done with some preparation. But in extensive speaking, it's more or less one way. Well, monologue here refers to either you deliver a speech, right? Or you may be doing a presentation, or you might be telling a story. So it's just you who speaks. Monologues can be referred to as when you talk to yourself only as well, right? But here it's not the meaning. I mean, it can be taken, but when it comes to public, it is how you're dealing with the third party, right? So sometimes when this happens, the feedback you get is going to delay. It's because the second language learners do not have the knowledge of practically almost all the routines or the discourses that they should be using in order to go for a communication without a break. We always stop in between, we always pause in between, and our pauses are longer than any native speaker. Our pauses, you know, once when you pause and when you start again, we don't start from where we have paused, we start from a total different point. That shows that we have no cohesion between what we have said and what we are going to say again. So, I mean, lacking of all these routines put us in these type of situations. But are the types that we talked about clear to you? What were the types? Extensive. What were the other types?
Interactive,
Imitative, intensive, responsive, interactive, and
Extensive.
yeah. Numerous attempts have been made to classify the functions of speaking in human interaction. Attempts, what do you think the attempts that they have made? What could be these attempts? What idea do you get with the word attempts here?
Different type of functions, that interaction, Different type
Yeah,
of
tense is the tries, isn't it? Tries. Okay, numerous efforts have been made to classify the functions of speaking in human interaction. It does mean that people have kind of worked on this just in order to see what this human interaction means. As Brown and Yule made a useful distinction between the interactional functions of speaking, in which it serves to establish and maintain social relations. The transactional functions, which focuses on exchange of information. Now see now these two are one set who has made an effort to see and made an effort to classify the functions of speaking in human interaction. So it says, I use an expanded 3-part version of Brown and Yule's framework after this, then talk as interaction, talk as transaction, talk as performance. But there we talk about 3 things: talk as interaction, talk as transaction, and talk as performance. Each of these speech activities is quite distinct in terms of form and function and requires different teaching approaches. Now to talk as interaction, it is a different way. Talk as transaction is a different form. And talk as performance has different functions to practice. Do you agree with me that these 3 are different? Though they are interrelated, their differences are vast. They are interrelated with talk, of course, but they have a difference because how you're going to interact, how you're going to speak as transaction, and how you're going to talk as performance are, say, like, person who can interact does not mean that if that person can perform all the time. I mean, if a person can perform and speak in public all the time, there'll be more teachers speaking in this Zoom. What I see is only a couple of teachers always respond. Okay, they are ready for this transaction performance, transaction functions. Others would like to go for interaction. And like, when I have given you a work to do and then ask you to present it, it comes under performance. And everybody would be saying, okay, you perform, you speak, I'm not going to do it. I'll do all the groundwork, you go and stand up and speak. Am I right or not? And doesn't this happen to us in the classes as well? Don't the children always interact with each other? It's very personal, right? But talk as performance is very open. And you need quite a lot of effort to do that. You have to have a lot of courage to stand up and perform yourself. And to train these children into these things, we have to use different teaching approaches. We can't be teaching them all these types in one way. I think that is one point where we have gone wrong. The functions of speaking in human interaction. Again, we say that when you have interactional functions of speaking, that helps us to maintain social relations. Transactional functions focus on exchange of information. All right, these the difference, the distinction between interactional functions of speaking is that here it maintains the social relations. Here it maintains exchange of information. These are 2 different things. We are always very comfortable when it comes to social relations. But we are not very comfortable when it comes to exchange information. We may hesitate. We may not want to talk. We may not want to go into details. We may want to hold back. But if it's just a social relation, you meet people somewhere, then you sit and you talk. Right? There aren't any hesitant markers there. So what we have to understand is, even when it comes to speaking, and we say that just keep speaking, you speak and you speak all the time and you can't stop them speaking. Well, they speak for certain functions only. At certain functions, they don't speak. You give them a topic and ask them to stand up and speak about that. They won't talk. Right? Have you noticed? Have you kind of, observed your children? Even the most talkative will not be standing up and speaking for a presentation. Will be very reluctant to speak. Even if they speak, they'll be very slow, very soft in their speech, as if it's a shame to be heard by the others. Okay. So, when you talk as interaction, this is what we do. Talk as interaction is normally just the conversation we have. It's just the basic, the primary social function. You just exchange greetings. You engage in small talks like, hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. Where have you been? I saw you yesterday in Kandy, Colombo, at the shop, at the supermarket. Okay, I was there. I saw you at the doctor. Yeah, my mother was sick. They are small talk, right? And you just talk about very small experience. Well, I saw an accident yesterday. It was devastating to see what has happened. Oh my God, where was it? How has it happened? Small talk. Why didn't you come to school yesterday? I was sick. Why? What's wrong? Well, I've got fever. Are you okay now? Yeah, fine. Right? Okay, take care of yourself. Small talk. And they are all small interactions. And they're very casual. Or your principal might call you and ask, why didn't you come to school yesterday? I'm sorry, sir. I was sick. Why didn't you inform? I was too sick to inform. Right? Next time you must send a telegram. Don't forget it. Small talk, but formal. Right? So we have to understand that depending on circumstances, the way that we interact is going to be different. Is that understood? Is this clear to you?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
How many of you are sleeping now?
Yes, we can understand.
Ah,
We are not
how many of
sleeping.
you have fallen asleep on your chairs? Huh? I mean, that is one reason why I want you all to work together. The main features of talk as interaction can be summarized as follows. It has a primarily social function. A primary social function. Reflects role relationships. Very simple, right? Reflects speaker's identity. When I talk to you, you know me and I know you. Maybe formal or casual. You talk to your boss or you talk to your friend. it's the same. Uses conversational conventions. You don't go into formal language. You simply say, yeah, hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. Where did you go? Well, I'm leaving early. My mother is sick. Fine, take care of her. Yes. Reflects degrees of politeness. Yes. Well, depending on the person and the situation, we reflect the politeness. How polite we are going to be. If it's friends, we may not be that polite. But if it's with certain hierarchies, yes, we will be polite. Even with some unknown, we'll be polite. Employs many generic words. What are generic words? What do you mean by generic words? Tell me the meaning of generic words. Find it and tell me. Uses conversational register. Is jointly constructed. So these are the main features of talk as interaction can be, right?
Jointly constructed means this partnership with each other. That-
Yes. Give me examples for that as well, right? Be ready, I'll ask you later. Talk as transaction. Talk as transaction refers to situations where the focus is on what is said or done. The message and making oneself understood clearly and accurately is the central focus, rather than the participants and how they interact socially with each other. Say, I'm teaching you, it's a transaction.
Generic words are commonly used words.
Sorry?
Generic words are commonly used words.
Yes. Yes, look for some more, right? So transaction is going to be a bit different from the interaction because here we refers to
We have
different
to-
situations. Okay, situationally it's going to be different, and then functionally also it's going to be different. Okay, because here the central focus is the comprehension rather than the interaction social. What we look for is the meaning, the comprehension, the understanding of the message, rather than how we are going to behave socially with each other. Examples of talk transactions are classroom group discussions and problem solving activities. You have to give information back and forth, they have to be correct. A class activity during which students design a poster. Okay, discussing needed computer repairs with the technician. You just need you just talk the needed parts, and the understanding will have to be there because the person who listens to you should understand what you mean. Discussing sightseeing plans with a hotel club or tour guide. Making a telephone call to obtain flight information. You have to get information, right? Asking someone for directions on the street. Buy something in a shop. Yes, you have to talk because you have to understand. Ordering food from a menu in a restaurant. These are some of the examples. So when we teach in the school, what do you think that we are focusing more on? Are we focusing more on interaction or transaction?
We should focus on transaction, madam.
Yeah, we normally focus more on transaction, right? And I think to a certain extent, we neglect the interaction part. I mean, that could be one reason why our students are not very fluent in their language. Because it is with interaction only we use quite a lot of discourse. There are two types of transaction. Now it says there are two different types of talk as transaction. The first type involves situations where the focus is on giving and receiving information. Okay. Now one is giving and receiving information. Right. What's the other? Where the participant focuses primarily on what is said and achieved. Accuracy not be a priority as long as information is successfully communicated and understood. The second type is transactions that focuses on obtaining goods or services. The second type is what? Obtaining goods or services. Such as checking into a hotel or ordering food in a restaurant. For example, the following exchange has observed in a cafe. Okay, what will it be today? Just a cappuccino, please. Low fat decaf if you have it. Sure. Nothing to eat today? No thanks. Not a problem. Right. See now. This comes under obtaining goods or services. And the other one is giving and receiving information. Okay. So there can be, or there are two types of transactional methods, right? The main features of talk as transaction are, it has a primarily information focus. The main focus is on the message and not the participants. Okay, right. Now you can compare it to passive voice, right? It's the message that matters and not the person. Just like, you know, it's the action that is important and not the person who does it. Participants employ communication strategies to make themselves understood. Right? So they use all sorts of communication strategies in order to make them understood by the next person. There may be frequent questions, repetitions, and comprehension checks, as in the example from the preceding classroom lesson. There may be negotiation and digression. Linguistic accuracy is not always important. Now it does not say linguistic accuracy is not important, but it says linguistic accuracy is not always important. Always you don't have to have it, but you have to have it, right? These are the main functions of transaction. Talk as transaction. Let's see some of the skills involved in using talk for transactions. Explaining a need or intention. I just need to have a coffee. Right? I want to have it now. Well, because I'm feeling tired, exhausted. Well, intentions, right? Describing something. Well, I was going to buy a sari and it was beautiful. Well, that's the only design I have seen of that particular kind. And that color was marvelous. I was enchanted by it. Right? Okay, describe. Asking questions. Where have you been? How much is this sari? Well, don't you have other colors? What's the best price you can give me? You can ask questions. Asking for clarification. Well, is that the only sari that you have of this kind? Or do you have any others as well? Right? Can't I find something similar to this, but of the same style? You're asking for clarification, right? Confirming information. So what you see is correct, aren't you? Now I'm going to post you as the head of the department. According to the information you have given me, I think you deserve the spread. Justifying an opinion. According to the justifying an opinion. According to the observations we have done, we feel that spread of dengue has become has become to a very fatal point. Making suggestions. I personally, as a teacher, I'm suggesting you all to clean your home gardens and to dispose all the plastics, polythenes, and tiny, big, broken vessels that may collect water and dispose them to the waste bins. That will help you to stay out of spreading dengue. Okay. Clarifying understanding. I hope you understood what I said. Did you get me? Making comparisons. This student is really good, or much better than the other one. It does not mean that the other one is bad, because we compare all the similarities.
Ma'am, we can comment the student, you have done better than the last time.
Yes, you can, yes. Better than the other. When you say better than the other, it does not mean the other one hasn't done anything. Other one has done as well, but you are better than that. So you're comparing. You compare only the similarities. You don't compare differences. You contrast the differences and compare the similarities. Okay. Agreeing or disagreeing. Now say, I just agreed with you. Yes, you can do that. That's correct. So these are some of the skills involved in using talk for transaction. And we have to make sure that our students know how to use these in their speech. So we go to the next topic, that is teaching talk as performance. Do you all need a break? If you need, tell me, or if not, I'm going to continue. Does anybody need a break? Yes, the silence says yes, right? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, be free to talk. You don't have to be scared of me, right? I'm not going to eat you alive. And I can't anyway do it because I'm far away from you all. So I'll not be able to do anything like that. Yeah, okay, we'll talk about this. Take about 10 minutes break. Have a cup of tea and come back.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, hope everybody is getting back to the session again. Mhm. Let's start. So teaching talk as performance, right? How we are going to teach talk as performance part. Teaching talk as performance requires a different teaching strategy. Now we have to understand this needs a different reading strategy. Why different? We don't know why different, but it says we need a different reading strategy. What do you think is the reason for that? Hmm? Why should we need a different teaching strategy?
To keep the attention of the students.
Yeah, because this is not very straightforward, is it? This needs a lot of skill in the performer, the whoever the person who's engaging in the task, right? Now, initially, talk as performance need to be prepared and scaffolded. You know the scaffolding theory, right? In much the same way as written text. And many of the teaching strategies used to make understandings of written text accessible can be applied to the formal uses of spoken language. That is what we always say, okay? If you read, you can write. If you read, you can speak. If you listen, you can write. If you listen, you can speak. Okay? Therefore, reading and listening, we always consider as receptive skills through which we get the language. And speaking and writing are called the productive skills where we produce the language out. Okay, so in this talk as performance, it's like, you know, to perform, you need a different skill. You simply can't perform just because you can speak doesn't mean that you can perform. You must have noticed this in your children, because some of very good speakers in your class, they even don't like to stand up and perform in front of a crowd. Have you noticed this? For that, you need to prepare them, right? That preparation is not easy. It has to be done systematically, right? This approach involves providing examples or models of speeches, oral presentations, stories, etc., through video or audio recordings or written examples. These are then analyzed and deconstructed to understand how such texts work and what their linguistic and other organizational features person. As I told you, like, you know, there are some very good users of the language, but they are not good presenters. They never go up on stage and present because they were not systematically prepared. But some, of course, you have some outgoing characters. Even if their language is not very good, they are always ready to perform. The performance will be there definitely, but then you have to correct the language. Okay, here the language will be there, but you have to prepare for the performance. So you are handling two different ends. There are two different ends for you to handle all the time when it comes to prepare students for talk as performance, right? Questions such as the following guide this process. What is the speaker's purpose? We just have to make sure we know why the speaker is speaking. Who is the audience? To whom are we going to speak? What kind of information does the audience expect? What is the information the audience is expecting, not what we want? Okay? We have to speak according to their need. How does the talk begin, develop, and end? What moves or stages are involved? Okay. I mean, I'd say now for the fourth one, how does the work begin, develop, and end? Is just like you teach them a writing task. You teach them the introduction, body, and the conclusion. So it's more or less the same, but in a more practical manner, because the performance would be different. In writing, the performance would be black and white. Here it will be oral, right? So for oral performances, we just need to have routines used all the time, discourses used all the time. They should be free to speak. They should have the language and they should know where to stop, when to stop, how to stop, when to begin, and when not to exaggerate things. Is there any special language used? So these are few questions that you can ask. Students then work jointly on planning their own text and present it to the class. Now, have you ever, or do you ever give the students presentations in the classes? I think grade 8 upwards, you can start doing this. Even grade 6, 7, you can make the children prepare and present. Okay, not as a speech only. Sorry, not as a speech only, but as some information presenting, right? The teacher will have to decide, depending on your class level, what sort of a topic would be okay for them and how we are going to organize them to do this. Okay. Now, Rees and Joyce's approach to text-based instruction provides a good model for teaching talk as performance. You can read this, right? This approach involves teaching explicitly about the structures and grammatical features of spoken and written text, linking spoken and written text to the cultural context of their use, designing units of work that focus on developing skills in relation to all text, then providing students with guided practice as they develop language skills for meaningful communication through all text. So it's kind of an integration, right? In this particular approach, there are so many things for the teacher to do, not just one. First, you have to teach the grammatical features and the structures, okay, both in spoken and written. And the students will have to be pretty sure of those things. And then you teach them the linking spoken and written text. And we have to always understand that these are different according to their cultural context. So when we teach them, we have to think of the cultural context of things. Then we have to design units of work that focus on developing skills in relation to the whole text. The whole text is there, the big objective, the big work is in one side, but to achieve that big one, we need to have little bits. Now this is scaffolding, right? You just give bits and bits and bits and pieces, you put them together and you bring them up, okay? Then you provide students with guided practice as they develop language skills for meaningful communication through whole text. Whole text is just one on the top. So then Rees and Joyce has given it in this 5-phase description of how a text-based lesson process. There are 5 phases. Phase 1 says build in the context. Students are introduced to the social context of an authentic model of the text. Phase 2 will be modeling and deconstructing the text. Students investigate the model structure and language, comparing it to other examples. Now see, you have to have one and then you have to have others as well, because they have to compare, right? Phase 3, joint construction of the text. Students begin to contribute to the construction of new examples of the text type, with decreasing teacher involvement. Now, when it comes to third phase, teacher is going to step back and let the students take over. They are the ones who are going to do this. Now they have gone through one, they have gone through many others, and they have compared, and now, okay, fine. They are going to create on their own construction. Then phase 4, independent construction of the text. Students work independently with the text on tasks such as role plays, presentations, and writing. You give them the challenge, and they are given the freedom to work independently. Phase 5, linking to related text. Students investigate how what they have learned can be related to other texts in similar contexts and other cycles of fiction. Now here, can you see metacognition is involved in this, because they themselves will have to see, they themselves will have to plan, right? Monitor and evaluate. And all the 3 steps are involved under these 5 phases. And they are the child learns that why and how and what they should be learning. What they are learning, why should they be learning, and how they should be learning. Okay. And what they have learned is the ultimate question that they ask, and they should have an answer for that by themselves. Not that we are going to give them the answers, what they have learned and why they have learned and how they have learned it. All right. Implications for teaching. In planning speaking activities, it needs determining the expected level of performance on a speaking task and the criteria that will be used to assess students' performance. Okay. This is purely teachers, right? When we plan activities, we need to determine the level. Sometimes we give them too simple activities. Sometimes we give them too difficult, like, beyond reach activities. Both the types are going to damage them. So, best thing we need to know level, the expected level of the students. And then we have to create a criteria that we can use in order to assess the performance. Okay. So for any activity we use in the class, whether it be one that seeks to develop proficiency in speaking talk as interaction, transaction, or performance, we need to consider what successful completion of the activity involves. Is accuracy of pronunciation or grammar important? Is each participant expected to speak for about the same amount of time? Is it acceptable if a speaker uses many long pauses or repetitions? If a speaker's contribution to discussion is off topic, does it not? Right. So many questions to answer, right? So many options to consider when we create the tasks, irrespective of whether it's going to be interaction, transaction, or performance. We as teachers, now see, it's always we, it's always we, it's always the teachers, it's always what we are going to do, how we are going to do, right? And ultimately, the blame too comes on you. We haven't done it. We haven't planned. We haven't performed correct. We haven't given. So we just have to make sure that we give them the courage, right? We give everything that has to be given in the has to be given standard, has to be given scope, has to be given level. Then they will not be complaining one thing. And on the other hand, we can be happy that we have done our duty. As the above questions illustrate, the types of criteria we use to assess speakers' oral performance during a classroom activity will depend on which kind of talk we are talking about and the kind of classroom activity we are using. Again, it's ours. The questions we ask will definitely give us the illustration, the types of criteria we use to assess. How are we going to assess? And what are we going to assess? This is very important. In a report on teaching discussion skills, Green and Christopher and Lamb recommended assigning one student to serve as an observer during a discussion activity using the following observation form. Now they're giving an observation form, right? Say number of contributions by the students, total number of contributions made, A, B, C, D, E, F, like, okay? Responding supportive, responding aggressively, introducing a new or a relevant point, okay? Digressing the topic. You don't have to stick to this, but you can have a similar one. Let there be a silent observer always when you have a speaking activity given. And then get the comment. The silent observer will be speaking again. Why? Because he will have to comment. And that commenting can be talk of performance, okay? Or talk of transaction. Can I give them interactions and elicit a transaction or performance out of it? So it's always teaches creativity. How creative we will have to be when we design tasks. I don't know You might even now say, okay, even this teacher is putting everything on the teacher. How are we going to do all this? I mean, we are not magicians, we are not, but we will have to do, okay? And that is what the world is expecting us. We are going to change everything, right? A speaking activity that requires talk as performance, example, a mini lecture would require very different assessment criteria. These might include, okay, if it's a mini lecture, clarity of presentation, whether it's clear enough, right? The extent to which the speaker organizes information in an easily comprehensible order. Use of discourse markers, how well the flow is maintained. Because with discourse markers, you maintain the flow of your speech. The repetition, how much repetition do you have? Okay, what do the speaker repeat all the time? If the person repeats same vocabulary, similar phrases throughout, that shows that he lacks vocabulary. So he needs to improve his vocabulary. Stress to emphasize important points in the speech and to make the lecture structure more salient to the listeners. So how, like, what point should be included? Therefore, when we, kind of assess talk as performance, we just need to have a different criteria to measure it, okay? Different speaking activities such as conversations, group discussions, and speeches make different types of demands on learners. They require different kinds of levels of preparation and support, and different criteria must be used to assess how well students carry them out, okay? Different speaking activities like conversations, group discussions, and speech. So these are 3 categories. And for these 3 categories, you will have to have 3 different criteria. It can't be the same, right? Can't be like, oh, now say you are correcting, assessing a letter and an essay. What would the criteria be? For essay, you definitely will be putting format, right? But in the essay, you don't put format, would you? You would put organization instead of format. So there we have to understand what criteria are we going to use and how different they should be according to the tasks that we are going to give them. Each task will have to have a different criteria. All right, so what should we be considering when we do all that? What will be the focus of the activity? Talk as interaction, transaction, or performance. So first we have to identify that. How will the activity be modeled? How are we going to tell them how to do it? It has to be modeled. What stages will the activity be divided into? How are we going to divide the activity into? Well, there can be 1 stage, 2 stage, 3 stages. So how? These are simple questions to consider before you set the task. What language support will be needed, right? Say you ask them to deliver a speech and you give them a topic, and if they have no vocabulary support, the language support, they will not be able to do. So we to make sure that we give them some sort of a language support. Or you ask them to create a dialogue, and if they don't have the routines that they need to know, okay, the discourses, right, the slang or the humor that they need to include, their dialogue will be very dull and boring. So you just have to make sure we give them first if they don't have. If they have it, give them the challenge of finding what they should be doing, right? But if they don't have, don't give them challenges, because with an empty kettle, you will never be able to pour water. So make sure that you fill the kettle and then you need to boil it, not an empty kettle boiled and then expect water to be poured. Okay. What resources will be needed? What do we need to teach them? Do we need books, interactive boards, television? What are we going to use? Online materials, multimedia, listening tasks, Okay, anything, films, right? You have to decide what are we going to make use of. What learning arrangements will be needed? How should they be learning what we are going to teach? You know, before they perform, they should learn, right? And what are the learning arrangements that we need to have for them? What level of performance is expected? All right, are we expecting 100%? But it depends. You know your class. Therefore, you have to expect the level that they'll be able to reach. Don't expect a level that they will never ever be able to reach and then be frustrated at the end of the day. No. Disappointed at the end of the day. Don't do that. That is why the tasks doesn't have to be too simple or too difficult, but they have to be challenging. If the task is very challenging, the level will come to be expected performance level. Otherwise, no. Okay. Otherwise, we will always have a problem. Either it will be too boring because it is too easy for them, or it will be devastating because it's too difficult and they don't understand the head or the tail of it. So we have to make sure what we give is up to their standard, and it has to be challenging, but not destructive on our children. Okay, so now we are going to move on to teaching the functions. What is language function? What is language function, or what is language function? A language function is a reason why we communicate. Every time we speak or write, we do so for a purpose, for a function. Here are some examples of functions. What is a function? Okay. I mean, why do we communicate? To express sympathy, right? That's a function. Or to interact, we communicate. That's a function, right? So there is a reason why we talk. And that reason is the function. Examples of language functions: apologize, greeting, clarifying, inviting, advising, agreeing or disagreeing, accepting or refusing, expressing obligation, expressing preferences, etc., etc., etc. You have so many other. Can you tell some more? Can some of you come up with some more?
Requesting, rejecting, requesting, rejecting,
Rejecting, okay. Yes. What
Order.
else? Order,
entertaining,
entertaining, right? Clarifying. Okay, yeah. There are,
directing to do something.
sorry?
Directing ma'am, like how to cook, make dal. We are directing her.
Right, okay. So there are many more, right? So many functions are there. With every use, we have a different function. Okay, what are language exponents? What is an exponent?
Is like a tool exponents.
It's a tool, right? Yeah. The language used to express a function is called an exponent. Very simple, straightforward given. Exponents can express several different functions. It all depends on the context it is used in. One function can also be expressed through different exponents. Okay, here are 5 different exponents of inviting someone to lunch. Let's see. Come for lunch. Come for lunch with us. Would you like to come for lunch with us? Why don't you come for lunch with us? We would be very pleased if you could join us for lunch. Or you simply can say, join us for lunch. You know, you can, this is just only 5, but you can write many. Do you understand what an exponent is now? Do you get the feeling? Okay, 3 levels of format. These exponents express 3 levels of formality, right? One is formal. serious and careful. The other one is informal, relaxed. Third one is neutral, between formal and informal, kind of semi-formal, right? So formal means exponents are used in formal situations, like with hierarchies, bosses.
The last
elders.
one was formal.
Huh?
Would you mind joining us for lunch?
Yeah, the formal language we use, right? Informal, relaxed exponents in informal situations, just with your friends, very close, intimate
But you
friends.
would only say lunch as an you would
Sorry?
only you might only say lunch as
Yeah.
an inquiry.
Yeah, that's it, yes. Neutral between formal and informal. This is like, it is, it is important to use some level of formality. That suits a situation because it's neither informal nor formal. But it does not mean that we cannot be too informal. So we have to maintain some sort of a formality in it. Okay, this is called appropriacy. We have to see which one is going to be appropriate according. Situational appropriacy will have to be used there. Right? Very simple now. We know all this, but we don't know these names for them, right? The terminology is different. Right. Teaching language functions based on communicative principles. How to include this in lessons? One way is presenting functions in a dialogue, right? How we are going to teach language functions based on communicative principles. How we can be doing this? Just give me a minute. Sorry, I was just talking by muting. Say, one, either you have to select real interactions between real speakers, or you have to select role relationships between the speakers, or you must target the functions that occur naturally and represent the one that native speakers used most frequently in that situation, how a native speaker would respond in a situation. And you must definitely avoid dialogues that seem artificial. Okay. Now, most of these by-hearted ones look so artificial. You have to make sure that things come naturally to you. And how can things come naturally to you if you don't know the language? And you have to make sure you know the language. And how can you make sure that children know the language? Either they should listen or they should read. So make sure we give them enough input and then try to get the output. Okay. The second one would be highlighting the function in the dialogue. That can be done by exploiting the dialogues and have the students discover instances of the target function, like, that is called the linguistic exponents, and underline them. What did he say? Or you just highlight the important word in the question and ask them to write a reply for that. Now you give them how to identify it. Developing a grid that allows a visual display of the language forms related to the social variables of the situation. You can agree that allows whose baby is that? Okay. Right. Developing a grid that allows a visual display of the language forms related to the social variables of the situation. Now they have to identify what and how and all that. Or transferring the linguistic forms of the target language out of the dialogue to see in isolation. You just use the whiteboard or the OHP and arrange them according to the formality level. You can do this as well. Okay. Another way of the practice stage. Accurately producing and supplying the appropriate linguistic form of the function. We give them and we ask them to practice. Providing exercises on the linguistic forms of the target function, giving meaningful and realistic exercises and tasks. Right? Exchange of the type that native speakers would engage in. We tell them like, okay, this is how the native speakers would be doing. So you just need to learn this and you have to excel it and be excellent at performing it, right? Making sure that the exercises are not simply a mechanical transformation, where students could supply the correct linguistic form for the function without considering the meaning of the whole exchange. That is again another one, right? It's not mechanically done, but it has to be meaningful always when you do. What I have noticed most of the time with the students is they are very mechanical. Whatever they do mechanically, and they have no meaning given into it. They don't. Sometimes they don't know what they have done even, but they have done it. And there is a problem with that. Using pair and group practice whenever possible. Now this is one very good practice if you can do it. Using group and pair practice. This is peer learning, right? Let students learn from each other. If possible, do this as much as possible instead of straight away giving answers, straight away giving situations, right? Straight away writing everything on the board. Let them find, let them discuss, let them kind of dive into the previous lessons, let them go through, right? And then come up with the possible answers. Okay, first you do it with pairs, and then you put two pairs together and create small groups and see whether both the pairs have got the same or whether they have a difference in answers and why. How come that? You give them the question, how come? Why did I go wrong? Where was this answer? Why didn't I see it? How did you see it and why didn't I see it? How did you identify it? How did you identify that this is the answer? But let the students ask so many questions. This is one reason why I like to put you all into breakout rooms, discussions. Discussions take you a long way. Not simply like, okay, you do it, we listen. We'll listen if you like, you do, and if possible, if there's time, we will take and listen. Or you do it and okay, yep, that's it. We don't want it anymore. All right, later when the exams are closer, you get hold of one or two friends, ask them to tell you what they have done, and then try your best. And when the lecturers go through the papers, or they get devastated of, my God, what have these people written? So they are in the Zooms, because anybody can go through these PowerPoints, but the discussions you can't, right? And discussions these simple explanations are not enough. You will have to get together and go for discussions. I always opt for peer learning. It's a very, very encouraging way of learning. Okay. Providing enough practice exchanges that students can practice while you walk around the classroom to provide help if needed. This is a very free style of teaching if you can. Encouraging the exchange of personal information during communication. That's another way, because you encourage interaction and they will learn little by little. No, scaffolding is that. They learn little by little, one by one. Or you achieve balance. Achieving the needed balance between using the correct linguistic forms of accuracy and focusing on meaning and communication. So accuracy and fluency is always needed. That is called the achieve balance. You have to be accurate as well, you have to be fluent. You can be accurate, and if you're not fluent, there's no use of practicing the skill. If you're fluent, but if you're not accurate, you become somebody like a tour guide or a seller who's selling, goods to a tourist. Now say, you listen to their language and see how they speak. They speak, they communicate, they take the message through, right? The communication takes place. Close the business. Goods go to the foreigner. Currency comes to your pocket. True. But was their accuracy? Have you ever listened to them? I used to do that. Whenever I see something like that, I would linger around. I would just stay around and see how they speak. I would like to observe. I would like to listen. I want children, if ever I get the chance to go to schools, and the times that I have spent in school, I've always observed students. And I've seen the mistakes that they make and corrected them in a way that they will never ever forget the corrections that were done. Because they themselves will have to do it. They're making a mistake, ask them to perform it in public and see what the result is going to be. And they will always remember how and what and why it has happened. So, I mean, the teacher's role has a lot to play. Right. So these are some of the sample activities for practicing language functions. Information gap tasks. Students have a problem and must communicate to solve it. Opinion gap tasks. Students state their personal preferences, attitudes, or feelings. Role play, drama, simulations. Students freely act out roles and situations after initial course, often simulating real life actions and experiences. Or you can even give them the options for games. Students produce and use language in the setting of a language game. I always have this feeling. The students who are with the computer all the time is really good in their language. Why? Because they have to know what it says. Even though the parents always complain that they are not studying, that they are with the games and they don't do anything other than playing games. You must test them separately and see they have a very sharp brain. They can't play those games unless they have a sharp brain. And then we just have to know how to divert it, that sharpness, into language learning. That will have to be done in a very diplomatic way. You have to identify the students. Most of all, you have to identify the parents, because otherwise they will oppose you. Say the teacher is encouraging them to play the games. My God, yes, you're out of your job. Interviews. Students obtain information from each other. Well, these interviews can be done in so many different manners. Students can do interviews pretending that one is a student and the other one is a teacher. Or you are the president of the United States and you have a board of journalists sitting around you.
They are including their favorite popular character.
Yes, popular character. You personify the popular character and the other person is asking questions. So you speak on behalf of your popular character. These are very interesting things that they would like to do. Let them practice separately, and you can take them up on the stage or in front of the class and make them do it. Give them chances. I mean, with the first task, don't try to assist them. Give them the chance to freely practice. Let the language come out of them. Let the language kind of, nurture in them, right? And then you nourish them, and then only we are going to take it out. What we do is, without setting the grounds and without planting it properly, we are trying to extract a lot from the students. What I would suggest doing is you just do the soil part first, right? And then plant the seed, water it, okay, sun it, give the manure the needed. Then eventually as it grows, only we are going to get the output. Instead of all that, what we would be doing is we would be seeking an output that our students can never give us because they haven't got the background first. So, in my point of view, we will have to give them plenty of space, plenty of time. And how we are going to do is you have to decide. It all depends on your schools, your standard of students, your directors, your syllabuses, everything. But still, you can think. Okay, you can think about how we are going to do it. Okay, you can take them on discussions. Students discuss a specified topic. Sides may or may not be assigned. Before you give it to student discussions, you can discuss with students. So I get start a discussion with the, of technology, modern technology. They'll be, you'll be amazed to see how knowledgeable they are. These famous characters like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they know a lot more than we even imagine sometimes. Now, sometimes we don't know, but these people are the role models of their lives. Right? And all the things that they have done, gained, okay, the worth, everything. So just give them, it may not be relevant to the lesson, but on the whole, what we need is the development of language. We will give them a chance to perform. I think that's the best way to do it. If you give them the chance to perform, they will be out of a lot of issues. Now, why? Now, next thing that we have to think is, why don't students perform? There should be reasons for that. From your points of view, can you tell me one or two reasons why you think the students don't perform well? As teachers, what have you observed? What were your observations for them not to perform well in the classes? Or are they all performing well in your classes?
I believe in my classes, what I've noticed is it's that we don't give them enough opportunities. And we must make them feel it's okay to make mistakes. If we go on pinpointing each and every mistake, they are demotivated.
Yeah, true.
For every simple thing, like we can give them an opportunity to speak up about, now, if a student is sad, we can, what made us different topics every day we can. Basically, I think teachers find it difficult because the number of students in a class are too many. It's difficult to give them opportunities, but yet if the opportunities are given, they feel confident. Now, I had an activity like calling a hotel to inquire the rates for full board, half board and all. So
Mhm.
I wanted them to bring with their parents' approval, get the phones and, call them. It took about
Mhm.
2 days,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
yet when they made that call, they
Mhm.
really felt confident and they were happy that they spoke to someone, real communication. And through those activities, they feel confident.
Yeah, true. I know. I'll tell you one more activity that you can practice. Like, say, if you have 5 periods per week, take about 2 periods or 3 periods. And before you start the lesson, you go for newspaper articles. Okay. Start with the standard of your class. You ask them to buy a separate book. Get a very small newspaper article cut and pasted on the book, right? On the page. And then, they have to do this as homework. Ask them to read it, write all the difficult words that they find one after the other. Then ask them to go for the meaning and the pronunciation and be confident with the meaning and the pronunciation, and then read the article again. Once when they read the article, they must be understanding something. Okay, they might get a feeling that this is the article is about, right? If they don't get it for the first time, ask them to read it a couple of times. And once when they understood what it is, ask them to write the idea of the article using just one sentence. Just one sentence is enough, not more than that. So with the article, they have the newspaper article, they have the difficult words, they have the meanings, they have the pronunciations with them. Plus, they have summarized, they have put the article in a nutshell. Take about, say, 25 to 30 word articles, not huge ones, very small ones first. And ask them to select one structure of the article. It says the man has gone back to the States. So ask them to take one structure and then write it down and write 3 sentences with the same structure. What they need to do is they need to just change information. Instead of man, you can say the students have gone back to the class. Man has gone back to States. Students have gone back to class. Something like that. Ask them to write 3 sentences. Then they'll do all this at home. Ask them to bring this to the class and give them 10 minutes in the morning, put them into small groups, right? Change the groups every day when you do this. Ask 1 or 2 students to read their article to the friends. And ask the peers in the group to listen carefully and write the idea they get using one word, one sentence. And also to take down the difficult words if they have any. Then they're going to ask this person who had the article, the owner of the article, the meanings of the difficult words. And the person who owns the articles will have to give them the meaning. And then, they have all the others, like say 4 others are there in the group. They have written their opinion, their idea about the article. And then the owner of the article is giving his idea. This is what the article is about. And then you're going to match. Okay, there are 4 other ideas, whether it's going to match. If it doesn't, why? Why not? Where did I go wrong in hearing? Where did I go wrong in listening? No, at the very beginning, you may have to have about half a period to do this. But once when they get used to it, they enjoy it a lot. Right? And also they learn to exchange ideas. They learn to read. They learn to communicate. Just try this and see for a couple of months and see the improvement in them. They also learn a lot of worldly things after that. Okay, so those are some of the things that we can do in the classes, right? Whatever it is, make it interesting for them. Make it interesting and also make it interesting for you all as well. Otherwise, you will not be enjoying your jobs. Okay, so I hope what we do today is clear enough for you. And well, I'm going to stop there. And this is the last. And I'll share this with the group leaders, and you all can please share it with your friends in the other groups. And it is always nice if everybody can come on the classes. Otherwise, what happens is you may not, You may not know what we really talk about. Just by listening to a recording won't help you to understand things as you do it as you are in the class. Okay, whatever it is. Thank you for joining. And I hope you did your mid exam well. Were the listening and speaking questions easy for you?
Questions were fine, ma'am, but with that word limit only I had screwed up. Because I was always trying to limit my answer, and maybe some important stuff are missing.
So you feel that you dropped out some important things.
You know, when planning a listening activity, what I gave was only the steps, but I didn't give the script, what the teacher was going to read out and all. So because of
Same as me
Ma'am,
as well, ma'am.
Ma'am, the word count was exceeded, but I leave it as it is because we have to complete the task. That's why.
It's all right. Yeah.
Thank you.
The word count is the minimum given.
Yeah.
Not that you had to stop exactly by 200 or 150. You can't do that, right? That's the minimum.
Yeah.
You can write 2000, you can write. No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Hereafter,
And
now
then
just
example of generic words you did not give us. Is it like words?
okay. So tell me, I asked you all to find. I'm not going to give you.
Is it like, I mean, which related to that class or mostly used words? Different definitions were there. That's why there's a confusion.
Yeah, what about the others? Come up with your ideas. Did you look for it? Hmm? It's type of a general vocabulary, isn't it? General word that is meant for a lot of things. One word can be used in order to mean a lot.
Like clothes, vehicles.
When
kind
you
of
say
stuff.
clothes, yeah, clothes represents a lot. Huge. Okay, something like that. Those are generic words.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, right. And thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
See you again soon.
Thank
But
you,
definitely
ma'am.
not next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, I just forgot one thing. I'm sorry. But happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the group.
Same to you, madam.
Same to you, madam.
Thank you. Right. Take care.